After finishing Dungeons and Dragons Dark Alliance, kind of sparked another conversation that was great over at twitch.tv/YoungRuben59. But as we finished the game, I'm talking to my community about it and kind of just overall games. If you listen to the review, which we did re-upload over at the Young Ruben59 Entertainment page, I kind of talk about some of this stuff that I'm about to bring up right now. So this is a question that I have to everybody that's watching this video that is a gamer of some sort. It doesn't really matter what kind. What is considered a full game? Because we know what's not considered a full game. But as, you know, with the microtransactions and that being like a kind of a model, with definitely in combination with the free-to-play stuff, but that's been the kind of model that a lot of people have utilized to, like a lot of recent gaming companies. And because of that, I think that muddied the waters, not the microtransactions themselves, but a lot of irrational responses to them, where people can't decipher from what a kind of more favorable microtransaction is, where it's actually consumer friendly, versus one that is like pay to win, which is really the only ones that I just don't accept, which unfortunately it seems to be most of them are. But you get this thing that is being thrown out there because of that, and people say that, well, that's the excuse of why some games are being released and they're unpolished because they don't have microtransactions. And obviously that's bullshit because they do have a microtransaction. We know that's bullshit. CD Projekt Red, y'all beloved the Herald company because of Witcher, which was the beacon of really just making customer friendly games, just because they don't put out like games with no microtransactions. And we already all know how Cyberpunk 2077 was an absolute disaster of a release, unoptimized for the PC and unplayable on console. Look, I've covered all of that on this channel. You know how I feel about that damn game in terms of how it undelivered, not even in the performance section. I'm talking about even just with the base game, it was not what it was promised. Cyberbug is that's an example of maybe there's another problem here that doesn't have to do with the microtransactions, but that game had no microtransactions and was fucked upon release. So this, again, I think we do need to decipher this if we are going to start to view games honestly. What the hell constitutes as a full game? A complete game? You know, is it a complete game if I don't know, beat it? Let's say that the bugs weren't game breaking. I feel like every game's going to have bugs these days. It kind of comes with the territory. Definitely ones that are online. There's only so much you can compensate for through alphas and betas. But if I complete it, depending on how linear it is, in 2 days, and I paid full price for it, is that considered a full game? Some people would. Some people would consider that a full fucking game. Why? Well, my only thing that I could do is replay it maybe on a different difficulty, but that's about it. I've completed it. This doesn't mean that there's something wrong with making that type of game. Not every game is meant to have a shelf life, I guess, of multiple months. But what happens is, and I think you guys may disagree with me on this, and that's fine, but this is how I see it. I think a lot of people view certain video games, and definitely if the microtransaction is present, you know that the game is going to be completely built upon, right? So no matter how much gameplay you get out of it, a lot of weirdos default to, let's say, saying that, okay, this is bad, this is an incomplete game, they're putting everything else behind a paywall, blah, blah, blah. Let's say if there's going to be pay DLC or anything. That's in addition to that, they'll say that. And I think that's just kind of an inconsistent way to look at it, because at what point, or what's the rather threshold that we're looking at here? Like, if I pay a certain price, let's say if I pay, I don't know, a certain price, and let's say there were paid DLC microtransactions, or maybe even subscription based stuff that was of course supposed to subsidize the game going forward. How much gameplay am I supposed to get out of it before I can see that, okay, maybe they did give me a full game and they're just building upon it. I don't know what that is. I'm not saying that I know like there's a concrete answer. But I think there's a lot of people that are looking at this and aren't even taking that into consideration. They just say, well, they released it at this state because it has microtransactions or optional purchases. They're just hiding everything behind a paywall. It doesn't even matter if you got 3 damn months out of the gameplay. But again, on the flip side of that, you could have a game come out, Last of Us 2, beat that bitch in 2 days, and be done with it. Why you would have played that game, I don't know, but I'm just using that as an example. But it's not considered. We may say that's a dog shit concept of a game in terms of its story narrative, but I don't know if I've ever heard anybody say that was an incomplete game. They would say that it was a complete game, and I say, why? If I'm beating it like that, so what are we looking at, fellas? It's more so what I'm thinking here. What is considered a full game? And I think if we're going to criticize any game for that matter, it doesn't matter what kind of game it is, I think we have to kind of, people that say that something is not complete, I think should be required to, at least if I'm going to take them serious, to define what they mean by that. What again, I'm not talking about incomplete in terms of, okay, we know what it's not. We know what it's not. But defining what it's not does not mean you're defining what it is. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, if a game is released in a state where it's so broken and unplayable, you can make the argument that game is not complete. But that doesn't mean that you're defining what it means to be a complete game. And this is why I encourage you guys. And I'm not saying this to take shots. I want to be transparent, and I want to put out that I believe these guys make the absolute most terrible arguments, and I don't want to sneak this. But they've led the charge on being anti, let's say, for example, live service. Jim Sterling's favorite term, live service. That's how he says it. Well, basically, it doesn't matter if the microtransaction is cosmetic. It doesn't matter if you get months upon months of gameplay without having spent $1. If it has some microtransactions, you can ensure Young Angry Joe, as well as fucking Jim Sterling are going to sit there and clutch every bit of pearls. And unfortunately, because they kind of, really a lot of the content creators in the gaming space are fucking economic leftists anyway, they make a lot of bad arguments. I say this all the time. There's an argument to be made against microtransactions. They make the absolute most terrible fucking one because theirs is centered around economic illiteracy. So it's just, oh my God, microtransaction. Oh, clutch my pearls and fade on the couch. Left my pearls in my other room, so I can't grab them. So what the fuck is considered a complete game? I think it's a question worth, even if you say that something is broken or something of that nature, I still think we should define that. And this is something that I'm putting on your term. Put on your, well, most of I want you to take into consideration when we criticize games and what it is that when we try to say that one is released in a bad state or incomplete state, more so is what we're referring to, and how we judge the game itself based upon that. And I think it's a lot of irrational, dumb shit that happens that doesn't even make sense from an economic standpoint, because you can have a game that is full price, let's say on standard, $60, let's say, for example, and you could beat it and fly through it in 2 days, which we've done with some of the linear games, but that's supposed to be considered a complete game. And then the game that I get more gameplay out of is somehow incomplete. I'm just sorry, I don't think that makes any fucking sense. I think that's an irrational way to look at it. And it's only taking into consideration one space. This does not mean, and this is why I've said at the cost of games. Now, I know it's different with like Steam and PC, but generally like, like consoles, it's like $60 standard. Dungeons and Dragons is only $40. You don't see that a lot But, you know, prices don't really fluctuate. It's like, okay, it's $60. How much gameplay you get out of it is however much gameplay that you get out of it. And I'm not saying that, again, because I don't want people to straw man my position. I'm not saying every game has to be a game that has the player in mind that is supposed to be playing the bitch for months to come. However, we can't ignore that aspect of it if we're going to talk dollar to completion ratio, if there is to be one. So that's my question. I would love to get your thoughts as we chat more about this. And in the comment section, what do you consider, what's the actual like objective metric that you are looking at when you see that a game is considered complete? Something to think about. You just watched a clip from my podcast, For Cannon's Sake. Catch us live at 12 p.m. throughout the week over at youtube.com/YoungRipper59 and follow us over at odyssey.com/@YoungRipper59. If you want to watch the entire video cast after the show is over, just be sure to become a member on the YouTube channel. Of course, the full audio portion of the podcast is available for free on all major digital platforms, or just visit forcannonsake.com.